All right, YouTube, welcome back. Caleb is back, and he's blessed with working on the Mazda. So Caleb pulls out the coil from cylinder 4, and he's like, "Hey, we got a little issue here. The brass inserts in the valve cover, right? One came out, but the reason that it came out is because they ran a self-tapping screw all the way through, to the point to where it punctured the valve cover just a little bit." The joy. Now we have to instruct the customer who already was basically tapped out and say, "Hey, the last monkey and clowns that you had working on your car fucked it up." So this is actually an easy fix. If you pull the ins coil because it's stuck.
Is the valve cover off?
No.
No, you don't have to take the valve cover off.
Okay, so there is additional labor to do the valve cover.
Absolutely. So this brass bushing, non-ferrous bushing, you can get them off. In most cases, they don't break. In most cases, the bolt don't break inside. And then
they obviously got the bolt out before because that's a self-tapper. That's not
right. But they could have just used epoxy to put this back into the valve cover.
Yep, and then just threaded that bolt.
And then thread the bolt back in, or a new bolt, but not go drill a hole with the self-tapping screw into the valve cover. And it's not pissing oil out of it, but it's just the crap out here with the clowns that are working on their cars. And I don't believe the customer did it, to be honest with you.
Absolutely not.
No.
That's not a... No.
So at worst case, if they don't want a new valve cover, Caleb's going to get this apart, and then you're going to cut this down, and then you're just going to put epoxy in that hole, and then that should get her through. But I just don't want to be... I don't want to be married to the car, right? Because the customer doesn't want to fix it, right? Their spark plugs beat to death. Married to the car, we had a guy come in for a rack and pinion, was it like 4 months ago?
It wasn't that long ago.
3 months ago? Just because a rack and pinion was leaking. So we went through, of course, our procedure was check the whole car out.
Mm-hmm.
Brakes are pulsating, tires are making noise, tire lights on, maintenance lights on,
Full rebuild.
front end's making noise, multiple other issues in the car. Wheel bearings have play in it. So the customer, all they want to do is the rack and pinion. So Caleb does the job, and we just set the toe. We're not doing a full alignment on front end parts that are bad. We're just setting, what's the sense even trying at that point? You have front end parts that are bad, and you just want a rack and pinion done. And I told Rachel that I don't want to be married to this job after we're done doing the minimum repair to his car. And the muffler had a giant hole in it too. So multiple failed systems along with the rack and pinion job. So when Caleb was working on it, one of the shields was rubbing the tires on hard lock, and we kind of missed it.
Yeah, because it didn't happen to me.
It didn't happen on
only
Caleb's road test.
It was only when he floored it at full lock or went over a bump at full lock.
Yeah, so then after he made it happen a couple times, it grabbed the metal shield and pulled it more into the path of the tire. So by the time that he's running up and down me and Caleb and I go up there and say, "Oh, all right, we see what happened. It may have been out of place just a little bit from us touching it, and by you trying to whip your steering wheel as hard as you can, or however, grabbed it more from tire flex and pulled it more in the path of the tire." So we actually resolved that problem. Then he's complaining that his steering wheel wasn't off before we worked on it, and I'm like, well, maybe it was or maybe it wasn't, but I can tell you, you have multiple front end issues, and a rack and pinion isn't going to make your car go straight. You need bearings, you need ball joints, you need strut, you need sway bar to frame.
All that's going to make the car walk.
So I said, "This is all you're getting here." I said, "You're more than welcome to take it someplace else and have them try and align it with bad wheel bearings and bad front end parts. But we already told you we're just setting the toe. We're not actually doing alignment because you don't want to fix it right." So after an hour of them basically harassing us because they didn't want to fix their car right, they finally understood that they should have understood from the rip that you need more work when we presented the work to them, and they didn't want to do it, and they thought they were going to have a brand new car when they were finished.
And they said that they were going to come back the next week to get that worked on. At least get the safety issues on it.
Yeah, and they never came back. "I'll be back tomorrow," I think they said, or some shit like that. But that's why I don't even know. When I tell a customer, this is what's wrong with it, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to fix your car. I don't care what crackhead Bob on the streets doing for you. I don't care what AutoZone or Advance says or Firestone or Pep Boys.
There's a reason you're taking it to us. Not that.
They're not doing the job I am, so I'm going to do it the way I like it. Like some painters, when they paint, they have a certain stroke and brush, right, on how they paint it. And other guys are do this way, and other guys spray and back roll and whatever. Everybody has their own way of doing things, and so do mechanics. Like certain things have to be a certain way, but then when you estimate a job, and I'm just going to use a BMW for instance, like a BMW that has an overheating problem or one plastic line that's leaking. Yeah, dude, we're not touching your coolant system unless you're replacing everything. Now, you can go find someone else who wants to tiptoe around your engine bay, but you're not going to find that guy here. And that's what I mean by I don't want to be married to your car. I present on a plate what your car needs, and then you start, striking out what you don't want to repair in your car, and then what you're doing is you're striking away how well I can repair your car and make it feel nice and new for you. And then when you're down to just a minimum repair and you expect new car results, it just doesn't work. There was a guy that I just started following, not to get off subject, but following on YouTube, that it looks like he has a small business, seems like he's very personable, knowledgeable, and he talks about similar situations that we do about customer expectations and stuff like that. And then one was he ordered knuckles for a car that
for a Chevy, and he got them from a junkyard, and they were Heim joints.
No, it was, yeah, that too. That the customer was a Subaru, somebody worked on it was a big abortion job. He couldn't save the knuckles, had to order it. Customer changed their mind, and he had, they already ordered the parts and special your beat. So then he talks about another job where it's an older, high mileage Chevy truck, similar, to us, high mileage repair is what we do. Older high mileage, he didn't even say newer, and it had wires, so that just tells you how old the Chevy generation of engine was in a Chevy truck. And he said he just basically did maintenance work on the car, and then he said a month and a half to 2 months later, the customer called and said there was a problem, right? And that happens. It happens with brand new cars. Not only the car that you just spent $50,000-$60,000 for, the car you just spent $1,500 for could happen.
Cam was telling me that one of his friends up at school has a brand new Mazda or something, and her trunk doesn't open because the strut's already blown out. 10,000 miles on it.
10,000 mile car with problems with the car payment. So then he gets into the story where he's saying, now he did I don't know what he did for a few $100s. I think he said $300. Wire spark plugs and some maintenance work. It's fairly affordable for a small block Chevy V8. Now he didn't say cap rotor wires, but I'm going to say maybe he just did wires and plugs and oil change and maybe some smaller things to hit that budget, because like I said, you're not getting much fixed for $300 today in a professional environment. Maybe not even with a mobile mechanic, and you're lucky if he's a good one. But he said the customer wanted their money back after he went through the procedures to see. He said as soon as he started the car up, he heard a rod knock, right? And the oil pressure gauge was low because it had a gauge. He put his gauge on. He's like, it's like 10 psi, on RPM. He's like, hey, it's mechanical failure. It's a 300,000 mile motor. It's worn out. It's nothing to do with me. But the customer insisted that he wanted his money back for the work that he did. He's like, well, there's nothing wrong with my tune-up work. But the expectations of, hey, you touched it last and now I need an engine, that happens, and that's just the way that it is. It happened with your fairly new car, right? Other than it's still maybe under warranty. And then if it's out of warranty and your engine fails, which is a very high item on the checklist today, is like, is this my brand new car that I'm making payments going to make it 5 years or 3 years and 36,000 miles? And chances are, when you think it's the best quality priority on that list, that you have that comfort, it's actually like it's going to happen more frequently than you know, right? Engine failure is so much higher today than it has ever been, and your older engine probably would last longer than most of today's engines. But for the customer to say that, right, he created a marriage. He really didn't create a marriage, but that's why I say that. I'm not looking to get married again. I was married once, and that's that. So when I use that word, it means if I fix your car right the way I say it, and there's no problems, and then you come back with another problem. This happens all the time in our business. Like you'll fix an evap code, and the customer will show up with a misfire code or something like that, or an O2 sensor or a VVT sensor shortly after you work on it. Or you fix the evap system, you come back, and the gas cap's loose, or it's not even the gas cap you put on the car. Like, how many times does that happen?
Yeah.
Because people in New Jersey are just stupid at the gas pumps. It's not the vehicle owner, because you're not allowed to pump your own gas. But that happens all the time. And you think that, oh, well, the shop's screwing you. They're not screwing you. Like, this is just the way that it is. Oil pressure lights come on after oil changes. That has nothing to do with why the oil pressure sensor failed, or why is the oil cooler pissing, 1,500 miles after my oil change on my Jeep, because you bought a Jeep piece of crap that can barely make 30,000 miles without an oil leak or a coolant leak, or not have a coolant leak within 10,000 miles of owning it. So your new vehicles have even more high failure rate items today than the old car that you traded in. Now you're just paying $5, $6, $7, $8, $1,500 a month for a car that has problems. No different than my son's Kia that has an airbag light on, a brake warning light malfunction. The car has 3,000 miles on it, and we're making payments on it. It's a lease, but at least when you're driving your old car into the shop, you're not making a payment, and you're coming in and you're possibly getting a warranted repair, or you're possibly spending some money on some other worn out stuff on your car, that rightfully so. Machinery does not last forever. Even bridges and overpasses don't last forever. They need maintenance, they need repair. Look at the people scraping paint off of bridges and re-riveting and replacing sections. They have to be repaired and maintained. That's why they do it. But that's why I said I don't want to be married. So I told Rachel about this Mazda, that I don't want to be married to this car if she's not fixing it the way I want to. The customer did pull back on some smaller maintenance items that I do not believe that will affect what we're doing, which is like she can change her own air filter. I doubt she'll ever do it. She can change her own cabin air filter. I doubt she'll ever do it. But she did commit to us redoing a hub bearing job in the front that she had done last year that is shot. We're going to get rid of the misfire codes, hopefully. We're going to do a GDI and a fuel injection service. And either we're going to replace the valve cover, or we're going to, epoxy repair it, and get her on her way. But there's so many easier ways that could have been done without destroying the valve cover. Thanks for watching.